As you can see, I got some drywall that needs to be repaired. In this episode of Home Projects with a Carpenter, we're going to look at the best and easiest way to patch drywall. Coming up. Okay, so as I stated, I've got a hole in my drywall. I cut this out for access to my water pipes. You may have some other reason why you had a hole. Somebody may have punched their fist through it or whatever. But in this episode, what we're looking at is how to get something like this piece of drywall to patch there. In my instance, I took one continuous cut because I knew exactly where I was wanting to cut it out of. You may not have that. If that case is you, where you don't have a continuous piece, what you need to do is just square off and use a stick or some sort of a straight edge, square off a piece and make an X where you have an exact spot of where you want that, and then take another piece of drywall as your piece that you want to fit in there and make that exact match on there. The key on this is the backer board. So the backer board is the key to fixing drywall in a large or small hole for that matter. If it's a small hole, you can usually just use one small little piece. And the key on this is you're just going to slide it inside in the back of your drywall piece, and you're going to have it so that it actually creates a little bit of a bond so that something can't push into it. So the way that works is you drill into, on the outside of the existing frame, your piece that you want to stick it in there, and then that piece will then be rigid, and then you can use that as your piece to drill into for your screws on the other side. The key is to sink those heads of your drywall screws just a little bit below, so you kind of push down, and so there's a little bit of a divot on both of these. So that way when the sheetrock mud goes over it, it makes a nice, even, smooth finish. This is inside of a garage, so it's not super critical to make this thing look perfect. Okay, so in this case, since the piece is actually pretty long, I'm going to put 3 pieces of backer. I got one up here, I'm going to put one in the middle and one in the bottom. So now that we have our 3 pieces in play, we got one at the top, one in the middle, one in the bottom. This piece was a little bit longer than kind of a little tiny patch. If you just had a single patch that was maybe this big, you might just put one on each side. Or if it's really small, if it's just like this big, you can actually just put one right in the middle, because a piece of drywall that's going to go over it, it's going to be fine just plugging it just like that on top. So now what I'm doing is I'm just marking where the wood is, because once I put it over it, you have the screws, yes, but sometimes the pieces are bigger or smaller. I used a smaller piece. It was thinner on the bottom, so I don't want to be. Okay, fits in nicely. Start at the top. Okay, nice and flat, nice and flush. What we'll do is we'll put a little bit of our sticky webbing, whatever they call that stuff, on the outsides, and then we'll get a nice coat of sheetrock dope. Okay, so that about wraps this one up. This is as good as I'm going to do inside of a garage. If this were a more traditional interior space, I would do a few more coats, sand it, and keep applying. You get, super, super smooth. In this particular case, this is just a kind of walk through inside of our garage, so I think this is going to be good enough. So that about does it for how to patch some drywall. This is just a real simple, quick way to do it. If you learned something, hit the like button. If you like the content you're seeing, you might think about subscribing. If you want to get notifications for future, hit the little bell icon. You'll be alerted to when I post new videos. But really appreciate you visiting the channel, and hope to see you again on another one.